hook
Okay, let's try a few
included at the very
steps.
beginning of the
Okay, I'm
paragraph
ready.
as requested.
1, 2.
Before this
Careful,
story
honey.
starts, hit subscribe, because what you're about to hear proves that love, grit, and one stubborn single dad can beat money, fame, and billionaire doctors who said impossible. This isn't just a miracle story. It's a reminder that the world still underestimates ordinary people. She couldn't walk. Not anymore. Not after the cold white hospital room where the billionaire-funded specialists spoke in polished voices and perfect suits, explaining to Maya's mother that the spinal damage was irreversible, that the nerves were non-responsive, that all the experimental treatments in the world, gene therapy trials in Switzerland, robotic exoskeletons in California, stem cell injections in Singapore, had failed. And as they said it, they didn't sound cruel, just finished like. Men closing a very expensive file, and Maya, 8 years old, listened from her wheelchair with her small hands clenched in her lap while her mother nodded bravely and later cried into a pillow when she thought no one could hear. But someone did hear. Someone always did. And that was Daniel Carter, Maya's father. A single dad with oil-stained hands, a second-hand pickup truck, and a quiet habit of listening when everyone else was busy explaining why things couldn't be done, and Daniel had been. Told the same thing the doctors told everyone else. Accept it, adapt, move on. But he didn't hear finality. He heard a challenge, because years earlier when Maya was 3 and learning to walk for the first time, she'd fallen over and over on the cracked linoleum of their tiny kitchen, and every time Daniel had reached out his hands, not to lift her, but to steady her just enough so she could do the rest herself. And when the accident happened, a rainy night, a crushed sedan, a drunk driver who walked away. Daniel remembered that kitchen floor more clearly than the ER lights, and while the world rushed to surround Maya with machines, money, and pity, Daniel did something no billionaire doctor thought to do. He went back to basics, back to the body, back to the stubborn intelligence of muscles and nerves that didn't know they were supposed to give up. And it started small. So small, no one took it seriously, because every morning before work he carried Maya outside, sat her on the porch, and asked her to imagine her toes wiggling. Not move them, just imagine them. And when nothing happened, he smiled like something had. And when therapists said visualization without response was pointless, Daniel nodded politely and kept doing it anyway, because at night after Maya fell asleep, he read everything. Old physical therapy journals, forgotten case studies, obscure neuroscience papers buried behind paywalls. And he noticed something the glossy clinics ignored, a footnote about neuroplasticity enhanced by emotional safety, repetition, and trust. Not machines, not pressure, not timelines. And so Daniel turned their small rented house into a place where failure wasn't punished and progress wasn't measured in charts. And the first twist came when Maya's little toe twitched one afternoon while Daniel was telling her a story about astronauts relearning gravity. And it wasn't dramatic. It wasn't even visible unless you were looking for it. But Daniel saw it, and instead of shouting, he kept talking, kept the environment calm, because the paper said excitement could interrupt fragile neural reconnections. And that night, he went to his truck and cried silently into the steering wheel, and weeks passed. Then months. Maya's mother, Claire, tried to be supportive, but she was exhausted, crushed under the weight of guilt and hope and the fear of being disappointed again. And when Daniel suggested reducing hospital visits to focus on home-based work, Claire snapped, accused him of playing pretend doctor, of risking their daughter's future on some internet fantasy. And that argument cracked something between them that had already been fragile since the accident, because grief doesn't break things cleanly, it erodes them. And when Claire moved out, telling herself she needed space to breathe, the story shifted again, because Daniel was alone now, truly alone, balancing night shifts, school pickups, therapy sessions that weren't officially therapy, and a child who believed in him with a faith that scared him more than failure ever could. And the second twist came when Maya stood up in the pool at the local YMCA, water supporting her weight, Daniel's hands hovering inches away but not touching, and a lifeguard started clapping before realizing what he was seeing, and soon strangers were watching, crying, cheering, filming, and one of those videos made its way online, labeled something like, "Dad refuses to accept doctor's verdict." And within days, comments flooded in, some supportive, some vicious, accusing Daniel of exploiting his child, of giving false hope. And then something unexpected happened. A retired neurologist from Ohio reached out, not offering money or fame, just a sentence. "You're doing what we forgot to study." And he explained how modern medicine often overlooked slow, low-profit methods that couldn't be patented, couldn't be rushed, couldn't be sold. And Daniel didn't feel vindicated. He felt angry, because if this knowledge existed, why had no one told them sooner? And when a famous clinic offered to partner with Daniel, putting their logo on Maya's progress in exchange for control. Daniel said no, and that decision cost them donations, attention, and media praise. But it preserved something more important, Maya's trust. And then came the setback, because real stories don't move in straight lines. And one winter morning, Maya fell, trying to transfer from her chair, hit the floor hard, and didn't feel her legs again for 3 days. And Daniel held her while she sobbed, telling him she was tired of being brave. And that night, Daniel nearly gave up, nearly called the clinic, nearly accepted that maybe love wasn't enough. But then Maya asked him, quietly, "Do you still believe me?" And he answered without thinking, "I always did." And on the 4th day, sensation returned, stronger, clearer, and progress accelerated. Not magically, but steadily, until one afternoon at a school assembly, Maya walked across the stage, slow and shaking, but upright. And Claire, sitting in the audience for the first time in months, collapsed into tears. Not the polite crying she'd learned in hospitals, but the kind that empties you out completely, because she realized in that moment that while she had been waiting for permission from experts, Daniel had been building a future one stubborn, unglamorous day at a time. And the final twist came when those same billionaire doctors requested a meeting, wanting to study Maya. And Daniel listened respectfully, then declined, explaining that Maya wasn't a case study, she was a person, and that what healed her wasn't a secret technique. It was time, belief, and a father who refused to outsource hope. And today, Maya walks, not perfectly, not without effort, but independently. And Daniel still works on engines, still reads late at night, still believes the world underestimates quiet persistence. And when people ask him how he did what money couldn't, he shrugs and says, "I didn't fix her. I just never agreed she was broken." And that is why this story matters. Why you should subscribe, because somewhere right now, someone has been told never, and they deserve to hear that sometimes never just means not yet.